My name is Arson. I'm 73 years old. I'm like an old cupboard that still stands in the corner, but no one needs it anymore. I became a shadow in my own life. Not right away, of course. First, a slight feeling of uselessness. Then, silence on the phone. Next, disappearance from family chats. And then, complete invisibility. My house is on the outskirts of the city. Once it was full of laughter, the smell of fresh coffee, and children's cries. Now, there's only the creak of wooden stairs and the constant hum of the refrigerator. The street is overgrown with weeds, but I still keep it tidy. Every morning, tea, a notebook, an old blanket, and a TV with no sound. I'm not deaf. I'm just tired of empty words. My son is a financial director, my daughter is a successful lawyer. My grandson is an influencer. They live a bright life. But without me. The calls have been reduced to "how are you," and "I'm busy right now." Their voices have become as empty as office walls. In the store, the salesperson looks through me. In the pharmacy, it's like I'm a phantom. In the hospital, the nurse says to the doctor, "Take this old man away, he can't hear." And I hear. I hear everything. And I remember. My days are monotonous. But there's something that no one notices. There's still a fire burning inside me. Once it warmed me. Now it burns. Because I remember who I was. I remember what I did. And I know why you all forgot. All my life I've built, protected, given. They took it for granted. But with age, I become a mirror in which they don't like to look at themselves. Because old age isn't about wrinkles. It's about not playing with illusions anymore. I watch. I'm silent. But I don't forgive. And when this Halloween, my neighbors decorate their houses with pumpkins with empty eyes, I understand, I am a real ghost. But not the kind that moans and cries. I am the one who watches. And waits. In the evenings, I sit down at my old desk and open a notebook. There are notes. Dates, names, situations. That doctor who was rude. That boss who fired my old friend. And that grandson who posted a video of himself mocking an old neighbor. I don't know why yet. But I write. Because something awakens in me. It's not anger. And not longing. It's the silence before the storm. Deep, dark, like night. And it seems that on Halloween night, the silence will speak. When I was a force, my voice decided destinies. The phones didn't go silent. People listened. Newspapers were printed with my quotes. I led people, but not out of fear. Out of authority. Out of the ability to keep my word. In the 90s, when everything was falling apart, I raised my first company from its knees. With 4 employees and second-hand furniture. We survived when others fell. I wasn't afraid to take risks. I invested everything, my home, my future, my health, to build a foundation on which others would later grow. I didn't allow myself weakness. Even when my heart was beating like a hammer, even when my wife asked me, "Stop, rest." I couldn't. Because behind me were people. Families. The team. And children who looked up to me. I was their support. A father who himself mortgaged a house to pay for his son's education in London. My daughter wanted to become a lawyer, I sold my car to cover the first year. No regrets. Because I was needed then. But what is left of that me? In the mirror, someone else. Someone forgotten. I don't expect gratitude. I only expected human warmth. But over the years, this warmth has evaporated like steam from a cup of coffee. My son now talks about personal boundaries and unemotional burnout. My daughter about how the toxic patriarchal model poisoned her youth. And I remain silent. But not because I agree. But because I know, arguing with the cold is useless. Irony? Those I saved pretended to have saved themselves. The partners I covered for now don't mention my name even during a toast. And those who called me the father of the company will now avoid meeting me on the street. Sometimes they call me to some events formally. To put in a corner. To thank. To smile at the camera. And again, to disappear. But every time I shake someone's hand, I feel who is lying. My whole body remembers these bony handshakes, fake, cautious, as if I were infected with old age. Today I remembered one moment. 1998, then the bank wanted to take my house. I stood before the commission. I was humiliated. They said I was insolvent. I left without saying a word. But 2 months later that bank merged with another, and my debts were cancelled. Not out of luck, but out of calculation. Because I have always known how to wait. And now I am waiting. Because history has not forgotten me. It has simply hidden. I am not forgotten. I am postponed. And on Halloween night I felt that state returning again. A mind as cold as steel. An internal monologue like a plan for a combat operation. This is not about physical strength. This is about intelligence. Strategy. The shadow returning to the game. And this time, I will not take loans. I will not save. I will not convince. I will simply give everyone what they truly deserve. They have forgotten who I am. But I never forget. Especially how I was betrayed. Pain is not something that cuts. Pain is something that sharpens. Drop by drop. Word by word. Gesture by gesture. Invisible, like rust, it slowly penetrates you, through the look of a pharmacist who was embarrassed by your question, through the indifference of a driver who closes the bus door in your face, through the drywall call when you ask if someone needs help. I began to understand, this is not just age. This is erasure. Systemic, mundane, cold, like a digital eraser. I am being wiped out of the space of life. My son hasn't picked up the phone for a week. My daughter is at a symposium. My granddaughter sends emojis instead of words. And when I asked Levko to help me set up Wi-Fi, he grimaced, "Grandpa, it's elementary. What are you, from caves?" And laughed. The way people laugh not at a joke, but at superiority. Recently, I dropped a bag of groceries right on the street. The tangerines rolled across the asphalt. I got down on my knees, but my hands were shaking. People walked by. Some looked around, not with pity, but with disgust. As if old age was a contagious disease. One guy even grumbled, "You have to know when it's time to stay home, Grandpa." I didn't say a word. I got up. I picked everything up myself. And left. But inside, something cracked. Not my heart. Not my pride. But my shell. At the hospital, they scheduled another checkup for me. They laid me on a couch. The young doctor, without even looking, grumbled, "Another old man. Check if he's conscious." The nurse said loudly, "We'll do an analysis now," and then to the septic tank department. They didn't know that I had heard everything. And that I remembered. I keep a diary. Not for my soul. For the facts. I record everything, dates, names, situations. I wrote down the name of that doctor. The pharmacist. Even the guy from the street who threw a tangerine at my feet and laughed. I'm not funny anymore. I'm not an old man who can be humiliated and forgotten. I'm a predator in a cage. And someone forgot to lock the door. Today I went through my notes again. In every line there's not anger, but cold clarity. I'm humiliated because they think I'm nobody. But I'm the one who still remembers how everything works. Who understands where the buttons are that will destroy their safe lives. They've forgotten that old age is not a breakup. It's an experience soaked in blood and sweat. And also, with silence. In silence I begin to understand exactly what to do. Not with emotions. Not with revenge. With precision. Because every small humiliation is a nail in the coffin of their illusion. And I won't kill them physically. I'll just make you look in the mirror. And never look away again. I was written off. But I'm alive. And I remember. And soon they will remember too. Every step. Every word. And Halloween night will not be a holiday of candy, but a night when fear returns to where it fled. Halloween. The last day of October. The air smells of wet leaves, pumpkins, and cheap plastic from children's masks. Outside, fog spreads through the streets, as if someone is blowing smoke from under the ground. This is the night when it's allowed to be a monster. The night when everyone plays monsters. But this time, the real one woke up. I was returning from the post office, again there was no letter. Even the bills were delayed, as if they had forgotten about my existence. The milk carton slipped. I leaned over, lost my balance, fell. The blood from my scratched knee mixed with the dirt. The milk spilled. Two teenagers stood aside in vampire costumes. One giggled, "Look, even without makeup, a real corpse." Laughter. Shrill, cold. I didn't move. And then, something clicked inside me. As if my entire previous life was locked up. And then the key turned. Not anger. Not tears. But clarity. The complete, icy clarity of a hunter who has just seen his first prey. I stood up. Slowly. Without words. They had already left, not suspecting that they had become the first. But not targets. No. They had become symbols. A trigger. I returned home. I took off my coat. I wiped the blood from my knee. I took down a picture from the wall. Behind it, just like 30 years ago, was a safe. A real one. Inside was an old notebook, flash drives, a few film photos, SIM cards, even a small dictaphone. This is not just an archive. This is the key to the past. And to a new game. I took out a push-button phone, the one that still had contacts that don't exist in the new world. Contacts of people who once owed me. Very much. And still haven't paid. I'm not asking for help. I'm offering a choice. On the shelf is another notebook. It's new. And empty. But not for long. The first names have already been written down. Those who laughed. Those who humiliated. Those who turned away. And in my head, not a plan for revenge. No. It's a plan for balance. Restoring balance. Because they think I'm broken. And I've only hidden my strength. As a child, I was taught, don't hit right away. Take a step back. Look at who you are. And then strike without raising your hand. My weapon is information. Words. Data. The threads that I'm slowly starting to pull. One is my son's partner, who is hiding tax fraud. Another is a journalist who once sold me his soul for an apartment. The third is a judge who got the lawyer's son out of prison for a bribe. I know how to play. And I start the game. Without noticing it for myself, I'm already different. I threw away that blanket. I turned off the TV. I stopped drinking tea. I live like a hunter. At night, I don't sleep, I read cases. I listen to recordings. I check profiles. I study maps. Now the shadow is not a weakness. It is camouflage. I am not in the center of the room. I am within its walls. And for the first time in 20 years, I feel alive. Fully, deeply, intensely. My body aches. But my mind is as precise as a scalpel. I don't want blood. I want real justice. No tears. No drama. Just a mirror. And everyone has their own face in it. And Halloween? Let them play monsters. I don't play. I have already become one. I have never been a saint. But I have always been just. And now justice is returning, cold as steel and invisible as the night mist outside the window. I do not touch them. I do not raise my voice. I do not seek blood. I only open the doors that they themselves try to lock. Let the world see what is behind them. My son was the first. Once he looked at me with respect. Now, with cold superiority, like an old server that is no longer updated. He works for a financial company, plays the serious man. But his empire is built not so much on intelligence as on acquaintances. And on dirty deals. I am not doing anything illegal. I am simply reminding the world of what he was hiding. In 2 nights I opened old correspondence, found information about his schemes, shell funds, tax optimization, commissions through a familiar firm. I am forwarding several anonymous documents exactly where they should be. No signature. No number. Just a whisper from the system, look here. On the 3rd day, he is called in for a conversation. 2 more days later, he is no longer the director. His face is pale. The woman is crying. He doesn't understand why. But I see fear has appeared in his eyes. The first crack in the armor of self-confidence. The grandson has become the second. The star of social networks. The world's favorite boy. Selfies, the gym, an expensive watch on credit. He despised weakness. Quietly, but every day. He laughed at old age because he thought it was a mistake, not part of the cycle. I found a video, the one where he yells at a homeless man, throws him pennies and laughs with his friends. It was lying in his closed archives, guarded like a bone by a dog. I don't edit. I don't invent. I am just the share button. The internet does the rest. Comments, anger, hashtags, unfollows. The contract with the advertising agency is being terminated. The girl leaves him. He sits in the room, turns off the light, becomes small. Silence no longer seems safe to him. She cuts. Each blow is not to the body. To pride. To the illusion that they are the pinnacle of evolution, and I am a remnant. No. I am a reminder that what you throw out into the world comes back. Always. A former partner is the one who once stole my business, blocked my loans, sold our company behind my back. I found an audio recording. An old dictaphone, almost rusty, but still alive. His voice is hoarse, defiant, like a jackal that has smelled meat. He brags to someone about bribes, about real estate schemes, about old fool Arson who signed everything. I am not disclosing the recording. No. I am sending it not to the media. To his wife. His son. His partners. I'm breaking his world not in public, but at home, in my own soul. He calls me that same evening. I see the name on the screen. I don't pick up the phone. Silence is the best answer. It's getting strange at home. First, the calls. Then the messages. Then the visits. They want to hear me. I don't want to talk anymore. I just sit in a chair. I drink tea. I learn new names. Because the world is wide, and there are many sins. And now, when I walk down the street, I notice that people look at me differently. Not with pity, not with indifference. With caution. As if there's something in my eyes that they're afraid of. And they are right to be afraid. Because I am not old. I am experience. I am memory. I am the mirror that finally returned their reflection. Justice is not a cry. It walks slowly, in the shadows. And when it appears, it is too late to run. I didn't expect thanks. And I certainly didn't expect apologies. I knew it wouldn't happen. But I also knew something else, now no one dared to ignore me. My silence had become a voice that couldn't be silenced. My footsteps in the empty house were louder than their toasts at banquets. I was a ghost who no longer hid. They had all gathered together. Uninvited. As if for a confession. In the living room of my house. My son, my daughter, my grandchildren, my ex-partner, even the doctor and nurse who had heard my silence before. They sat in silence, as if at a funeral. But this wasn't my funeral. This was the funeral of their illusions. I entered, I didn't hurry. I walked past them slowly, feeling their eyes on me. Once, they had looked through me. Now, through myself. My son was the first to open his mouth. His voice trembled. We didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. Because forgiveness is not something I give. Not because I am cruel. But because true forgiveness is the silence in which you see for yourself who you have become. I simply looked at him. Long. Not with hatred. Without contempt. Simply, directly. And that was enough for him to lower his eyes. The grandson, the one who once laughed at my cave days, now looked as if he had seen me for the first time. And he saw not my grandfather, but something more. Something that cannot be explained in words. His lips trembled, but he could not find words. I walked past, sat down in a chair. I took a notebook in my hands. I opened the last page. I wrote one sentence: old age is not a shadow. It is the eye of the storm, which sees everything. And is silent not because it is weak, but because it already knows everything. I left the notebook open on the table. Let them read. Let them figure it out for themselves. When they left, the house became quiet again. But it was a different silence. Not the silence of exile, but the silence of respect. No one rang the bell again. But no one forgot either. I went out into the yard. The autumn air was fresh. In the sky, the moon. Underfoot, leaves, like traces of time. I breathed in. Deeply. For the first time, not with pain. And I realized, I didn't win. But I didn't lose either. I simply reminded. To everyone. Memory is my weapon. Silence is my voice. Old age is my form. I am not a saint. I am not a martyr. And not a monster. I am a mirror that they were afraid to look into. And now they must. And this Halloween I am back in place. Not in the shadows. But in the middle. I don't forgive. But I don't hate either. Because what I did was not out of revenge. But out of love. For myself. For justice. For those who can still be saved. And when my last day comes, I will meet it not in silence, but in respect. Not someone else's, but my own. I will look into the darkness and it will no longer scare me. Because I myself have become a part of it.
Subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video.